Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here today. We're about to explore an important and powerful hadith. On this first slide, we see the title Copyright 2026 by Continuous Learning Development. The hadith is narrated by Ibn Umar. May Allah be pleased with both of them, and it highlights the core principles of Islam. We'll discuss its meaning, context, and what it teaches us about faith and commitment. Let's get started and delve into this meaningful message together. As we look at this slide, what's important to understand is that even though Allah isn't explicitly mentioned in these particular words, the Prophet's statements strongly suggest that the command came from Allah himself. This is because there's no higher human authority than the Prophet, peace be upon him. So when he gives an order, it's understood to be divinely guided. Now we also see many hadith where a companion says, "We were ordered to do such and such," or "We were prohibited from doing this or that." This raises a point of discussion among scholars. Some interpret these statements as indicating that the Prophet, peace be upon him, issued the command directly, and therefore those actions are considered sunnah, meaning they are recommended or encouraged acts based on the Prophet's guidance. So when we hear phrases like, "I have been ordered," it's crucial to recognize that these words reflect a divine command conveyed through the Prophet. It emphasizes that the Prophet's instructions, especially those explicitly ordered, are not just his personal opinions, but hold a special authority, often seen as a direct link to Allah's will. This understanding helps us see the importance of distinguishing between actions that are sunnah versus those that are obligatory, but both are rooted in divine guidance conveyed through the Prophet, peace be upon him. It's a vital concept that underscores the connection between the Prophet's words and Allah's commands in our practice of faith. This slide is about understanding the true meaning behind a particular hadith. What it emphasizes is that the goal isn't to fight people until they accept Islam or recite the Shahada. Instead, it's about establishing the dominance of Allah's law and ensuring that opposition to it is removed. This can be achieved in various ways. One way is through fighting, but it's not the only method. People might accept the law of Allah voluntarily and pay the jizya, which is a tax that signifies their acceptance of Islamic governance. Another way is through peaceful agreements, peace treaties, where non-Muslims agree not to oppose Allah's word. The key point here is that the overarching objective is to establish the dominance of divine law, whether through combat, peaceful means, or diplomatic agreements. It's about the ultimate goal of ensuring that the message of Islam is unopposed and that the law of Allah is upheld in society. This understanding helps us see the broader context of conflict and peace within Islamic teachings, aligning with the overall theme of establishing justice and divine guidance. This slide shows a powerful point about fighting in Islam, based on this hadith. It demonstrates that fighting is indeed sanctioned, meaning it is permitted within certain contexts. Now, some might think that fighting is always wrong, but in Islam, it's seen as a necessary act in certain situations. The goal is to spread truth and justice throughout the world, and sometimes that requires defending one's way of life through fighting and warfare. Today, we see that some Western disbelievers try to convince Muslims that fighting in the name of religion is uncivilized or wrong. They often say religion is just a personal matter, and no one should be forced to follow it. And Islam, in general, respects that idea. It does not force people to convert or follow Islam against their will. But it's important to understand that fighting in Islam isn't about aggression or violence for its own sake. It's about defending what's right and protecting the community when necessary. This helps us see the balance in Islamic teachings, respecting individual choice while also allowing for defense when needed. Certainly. Here's the word-by-word narration script for slide 5 of 12. Copyright 2026 by Continuous Learning Development. However, these same people of the West send their troops all over the world to defend democracy and to fight against the opponents of democracy. It is as if they are saying that it is acceptable to fight in the name of an ideology, but not in the name of a religion. Actually, in essence, there is no difference between an ideology and a religion. In both cases, one is accepting or implementing a specific way of life. The disbelievers of the West are fighting in the name of that ideology because, they claim, it is the best way for mankind, and it gives everyone their true rights. Their claim about democracy is false. Islam is the best way of life for mankind, and it is the only way that gives everyone their true rights. Hence, it is Islam that must be fought for. The disbelievers of the West have no logical ground to stand upon if they consider fighting in the name of democracy acceptable, while fighting in the name of Islam not acceptable. Would you like a more detailed or simplified version? When someone first embraces Islam and makes the testimony of faith, or shahada, this act has a very important protective significance. It actually safeguards their life and wealth, and we can see this clearly through many authentic hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. This means that once a person declares their faith, their life and property are protected from harm or unjust aggression at that moment. The acceptance of this statement is almost immediate, and they are not to be fought against or persecuted right after they declare their faith. The key point here is that the act of declaring the shahada in itself provides a form of security and protection. It's an explicit and clear indication that their life and wealth are safeguarded according to Islamic teachings. However, it's important to remember that this protection is initial. After embracing Islam, the new Muslim must fulfill certain conditions to maintain and strengthen their faith and protection. Now, when we talk about making the testimony of faith, it's not just a simple statement. It's a profound declaration that marks the beginning of a new spiritual journey. It signifies entry into the Muslim community and a commitment to follow Islamic principles. So, in summary, the declaration of faith is a crucial act that offers immediate protection, but it also carries responsibilities that must be fulfilled over time to truly embody the faith and its teachings. This slide highlights an important aspect of Islamic teachings related to those who refuse to perform key acts of worship, such as prayer and paying zakat. The Hadith here specifically addresses groups of people, like those during the time of Abu Bakr, who might deny these obligations. Even if they continue to declare the shahada, which is the testimony of faith, they are considered renegades and are to be fought. This emphasizes that faith must be accompanied by action. Prayer and zakat are essential pillars of Islam. The Hadith also illustrates a practical approach taken by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. If he was about to attack a village, he would check in the morning. If he heard the call to prayer, he would hold off, recognizing the community's faith and sincerity. But if he didn't hear the call, he would proceed, understanding that the absence of prayer indicates a deviation from Islamic obligations. This connects to the broader theme of establishing the prayer and paying zakat. These are not just rituals but foundational acts that uphold the integrity of the Muslim community. They serve as clear signs of faith and commitment, and neglecting them can lead to serious consequences, even conflict, to preserve the unity and purity of the faith. Today, I want to emphasize a fundamental principle in Islam, the inviolability and sacredness of a Muslim's blood and wealth. These are not just matters of personal importance. They are clearly established in our faith as protected and sacred. Every Muslim, regardless of background or circumstance, must respect the life, the wealth, and the honor of other Muslims. This respect is not optional. It's a core part of our moral and spiritual duty. The wrongful shedding of a Muslim's blood is considered one of the gravest sins in Islam. It's a serious violation that carries severe spiritual consequences and goes against the very teachings of our faith. Now, I want to highlight a powerful statement from the Quran that reinforces this idea. Then, if they do that, their blood and wealth will be protected from me. This means that when Muslims uphold justice and respect each other's rights, they are under the divine guarantee that their lives and possessions will be safeguarded. This concept ties directly into our overall theme today, living a life rooted in justice, respect, and compassion. Protecting each other's rights isn't just a social obligation. It is a divine command that helps maintain harmony and peace within our community. Let's delve into the significance of these hadiths. Most of them mention acts like prayer and fasting with similar wording, highlighting their importance. However, What's crucial here is that all other essential components of Islam are encompassed under the phrase, the rite of Islam. This means that while prayer and zakat are explicitly mentioned, other vital aspects are included in this broader concept. Some scholars interpret this to emphasize the importance of these acts, but also to remind us that Islam's rites extend beyond just these rituals. Furthermore, the phrase, the rite of Islam, also covers serious crimes, including those that warrant the death penalty. This underscores that Islam's rites are comprehensive, covering both worship and justice. When we see the phrase, except in accordance with the rite of Islam, it reminds us that any action, even severe penalties, must align with Islamic principles and justice. Overall, this highlights how Islam balances spiritual duties with social justice, emphasizing that adherence to its rites encompasses all aspects of life. This slide highlights an important aspect of how we should treat others based on their outward appearance. It shows that, in Islam, people are to be accepted and treated as Muslims as long as they outwardly demonstrate that they are Muslim, regardless of their true intentions. For example, if someone converts to Islam to save their life or for some worldly gain but doesn't show it openly, we still need to accept and treat them as a Muslim. It's also important to remember that the Prophet, peace be upon him, knew who the hypocrites were, but he never punished them just based on that inner knowledge from Allah. Instead, he followed a principle of justice, accepting them as part of the community as long as they outwardly appeared Muslim. Only if they violate the rites of Islam, such as harming the community or breaking its laws, do serious consequences, like punishment or even execution, come into play. And finally, we are reminded that ultimately, the judgment and reckoning are with Allah alone. We are responsible for our outward actions, but Allah is the one who will judge the true intentions and inner sincerity. This ties back to the overall theme of how justice, mercy, and accountability are balanced in Islam, emphasizing both outward conduct and inner sincerity. As we look at this hadith, it's important to understand that there are many different ways it has been narrated over time. Some narrations mention that the Prophet Muhammad was commanded to fight the people, and then the narrators often clarify that this refers specifically to fighting the polytheists. Others specify that the command was to fight until they bear witness that there is no God, but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. Notice that these narrations do not mention prayer or fasting, which indicates that the focus here is on the particular command related to fighting. Another key point to keep in mind is the language used. Whenever the Prophet says, "I was commanded," in this passive form, it signifies that this command directly comes from Allah. This is an important detail because it emphasizes the divine origin of the directive. So, to summarize, this hadith highlights the specific context of divine commands related to fighting, clarifies who the enemies are, and underscores the importance of understanding the language and the source of these commands. It fits into our overall theme by showing how divine guidance is communicated to the Prophet and how it pertains to specific circumstances, emphasizing the importance of context and divine authority in Islamic teachings. This slide emphasizes the importance of spreading the religion of Islam. It highlights that, at times, people must even fight to ensure its dissemination because of its significance. Once individuals embrace Islam, they are protected, their wealth and lives are safeguarded. However, it's also important to recognize that someone who commits a heinous crime, one serious enough, may be subject to the death penalty. We must remember that Allah is the all-knowing of the unseen and the hearts of people. In this world, we are to judge people based on their outward appearance, but only Allah truly knows who is genuinely Muslim and who is insincere or hypocritical. That's why, on the Day of Judgment, Allah will judge everyone fairly based on their true intentions and sincerity. This highlights the profound importance of striving to sincerely follow Islam, knowing that Allah's knowledge and judgment are perfect. It also reinforces the theme of the presentation, the significance of genuine faith, sincere effort, and reliance on Allah's ultimate judgment.